Town is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's also one of the most dangerous.
We're taking a closer look at a wave of deadly violence sweeping across Cape Town, South Africa.
Over the past decade, a lethal mix of gangs and guns has caused a surge in the
That don't look like the same image I just showed her.
Yeah, it's just said the beautiful world of Cape
That must have
Town.
been on the other side.
The two parts.
They showed us the water and the yachts and boats. Come on
You
here.
come this side. But
No, look over there. Don't look over there. Come on.
rate.
Certainly in many areas there is a crisis.
The lid has been taken off the boiling kettle and it's boiling over.
Last year, more than 3,000 people were murdered here. The number has doubled in a decade. In some areas, the situation is so volatile that emergency service
I know it's bad when you got the military showing up.
Bro, you ain't even doing nothing.
You just got squads. It's SWAT trucks just driving around.
refused to enter.
Poor dog.
How did Cape Town reach crisis point?
I don't think y'all should be advertising
Bro,
that.
that should be a.
I'm definitely.
Bro, homeboy wanted to put that in his bio. I gotta remember. I don't even know.
So guys, we're just gonna quickly do the update of the
What do you
weekend.
when they're doing it?
About 7 people were shot. 5 males, 1 female and 1 child was shot.
Pastor Craven Engel runs a pioneering project called Ceasefire, based in one of the most violent areas of the city, Hanover Park.
So it's like a
It's
district.
happening now, where civilians get shot. Then this can happen to anyone.
Craven and his team monitor gang violence in the district and, where possible, step in to calm things down.
Well, a busy day can easily be like 17 incidents of violence in the area and multiple shots of more than about 60 shots fired there.
The team is made up of reformed gang members.
We started out by using guys that we recruited from the street and we helped them to recover. We trained them strategically to go and help their own kind.
They're known as the Interrupters.
Well, thanks guys. The violence interrupter is at the front end of the violence, but it must also be a credible messenger in the community and credible with the gangs. Just down here, we had a shooting here about 5 minutes ago. And there, another shot being fired.
The Interrupted
That man just said that there was just a shooting out there 5 minutes ago. While he was in the office.
Man. And he's was he a preacher? Is he a
No,
priest?
he makes it like a civil group or something.
Oh.
To stop violence. He's
They
not
use a technology called Shot Spotter.
Why you
It
there?
employs sophisticated acoustic sensors set up across the area to detect and locate gunfire incidents in real time.
There's a shot coming in here. We can go to the area where it's been fired. And this is our region, our community here. Shots get fired, incidents happen, life goes on as normal.
What?
Craven's project is based in an area of the city known
always
as the
right by the
Cape
water,
Flats,
bro.
a patchwork of townships southeast of the city centre. Last year, nearly 2,500 people were murdered in these townships, almost 80% of the city's total homicides.
In other parts of Cape Town, particularly the wealthier and middle class areas, the murder rate has remained relatively stable or is non-existent. It's highly unequal in terms of the distribution of murder.
It's been
Okay, bro, that's literally anywhere. No rich neighborhood gonna have gang violence because it's monitored and controlled. But they talking about just like the poverty areas got more violence.
Right.
Yeah. You come home with a car. I want your car. Yeah.
I don't have one.
I have yours.
estimated that there are 93 gangs in Cape Town with 100,000 members.
These criminal gangs are particularly well organized, but also particularly violent.
They are rooted into the community, the system that's in place.
What's been happening in Cape Town in the past few years has been an intensification of gang conflict.
Over the past decade, this conflict has been fueled by deadly weapons.
The key issue in South Africa in terms of the murder rate has been the influx of high-powered firearms into Cape Town.
Many of these guns aren't coming from criminal networks, but from the police. In 2016, Chris Prinsloo, a former police colonel, pleaded guilty to selling 2,400 guns to an arms dealer who sold them on to gangsters.
It emboldened specific gangs, and those gangs then started to take on others and really escalated the gang conflict to the stage of a war.
How do you stop that though?
Investigators have linked more than 1,000 murders to these firearms, including 261 cases in which children were victims. Under previous President Jacob Zuma, corruption became endemic. On the ground, gangs recruit corrupt officers who provide tip-offs about raids.
This is taking place in the context of high-level corruption. Senior police officials indicate that there has been some form of collusion between individuals within the ruling party and those in the criminal underworld.
In Cape Town, the murder rate has risen from 44 to 73 people per 100,000 in 10 years. It's now more than twice that of Johannesburg. One study found it was the 11th most murderous city in the world, not including places that are too chaotic to count the bodies. The crisis in Cape Town is the result of a toxic mix of factors, the roots of which go back more than half a century.
Violence in Cape Town also has particularly strong historical driving factors. The city is particularly divided socially and spatially.
In the 1960s, the apartheid regime forcibly removed mixed-race people, known in South Africa as coloured, from the inner city centre.
The forced removals saw them being dumped in Cape Flats and having to establish new communities.
Police rarely investigated the murders of people who weren't white. Their neglect allowed criminals to terrorise these black and coloured townships.
In these particular contexts, you saw gangs flourish. Conditions in many of these communities haven't changed that much.
Today, the area still suffers deep-rooted socio-economic problems. In one precinct, Philippi East, 93% of households were victims of crime in 2016.
You can never cluster so much people in such a small space together with no economic development, with no recreation, with no job creation. It's a recipe for self-destruction.
40% of young South Africans are unemployed. President Cyril Ramaphosa calls it a national crisis.
Apartheid is still happening in its own way. The white-only sign has disappeared, but the violence, the negativity, the opportunities, nothing has come the way of its community.
I don't know why from afar it don't look like that.
Gordon was in a gang from the age of 12. After spending almost a decade in prison, he left the gang 7 years ago to become an interrupter for Ceasefire. Today, he's returned to the township where he grew up.
This is my home. This is where I come from. You can see there's no opportunities, no privileges, no nothing. The only survival key inside of here is be a gangster, become a drug dealer. At the age of 12 years old, they shot my one brother there in front, the other one they shot him inside. Right there by that, right there is where I did my first murder. We grew up with the heart of stone, like we got nothing to lose.
When he was a gangster, it was Gordon's job to recruit children to join his gang, known as the Mongrels.
This is the only way to make the gang continue to recruit kids, you know.
But since he started working for Ceasefire, he's focused on preventing children from getting involved in gang culture.
You know, rolling with these little kids, just want to be example that they make them believe you don't need to be a gangster or drug dealer or drug addict. You can travel the world. I can be the example, you know, and show example to all the kids. You know, it will be amazing.
Ceasefire has so far helped 700 gangsters like Gordon to leave their old life behind and become community activists. But there's only so much a small charity can do.
Programs like ourselves and many others will make a dent, but that dent will soon, disappear.
Ceasefire is one of the tools for bringing down violence, and it can be particularly effective if it's linked to other sorts of interventions. The problem, certainly in Cape Town, is that there has been an absence of those sort of interventions. They've sort of been scattered across the city, and so they aren't particularly effective.
authorities are taking steps to tackle the crisis. In 2018, they set up a specialized anti-gang
Bro, you
unit
gotta.
tasked with bringing.
Didn't they just say that the cops like are involved in this stuff?
Yeah, so
Like, how you think they gonna come protect you and they involved in it?
They involved.
Like, they be telling them when they coming.
Mhm.
They bro, like the police are coming. Like they're a police officer telling the police is coming.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't
It's
trust
wicked.
nobody.
Yeah.
down violent gang crime in the city.
I want to give a very clear and stern warning to
I
gangsters.
would have gave up.
Your days are numbered.
Last year, with the death toll escalating, they even sent the army onto the streets of Cape Flats. Under Mr. Ramaphosa, the South African government is also trying to replace corrupt police and prosecutors with clean ones. Yet the murder rate continues to rise. Bringing law and order to a place like Cape Flats will take time.
South Africa is continually creating perpetrators of violence, particularly young men who will use violence against each other or use violence in intimate relationships against their wives, against their girlfriends, against their children. We need to do something very seriously about trying to prevent violence against children and work with families, particularly families that are at high risk of this violence happening.
South Africa needs more jobs, better policing, and a cultural shift among young men. Apartheid left a legacy of violence. It may take South Africa decades to overcome it.
Yeah, you get deep into it. Like,
If you enjoyed this film and want
yeah, and you like, what the frick happened?
But I think that's like I said, I told you, they show you this lens,
Yeah, you just want the image.
and then you try to move. It's like, nigga, look over here. This is where we at.
Nah, stay over here. I can't see that side.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was how Cape Town became a murder capital. That was very interesting, man. Y'all know what to do, man. Oh man, that's all the interview. I know what time it is, man. Hit that subscribe, like, in the comment. We out.